Tokyo, the heart of Japan. 11 a.m., bright daylight. The city's business districts are teeming with millions. Then on a North Korean radar screen, a warning flickered to life. An American Aegis-class destroyer. It was conducting a routine patrol in the waters near Japan. A standard operation, nothing out of the ordinary. But in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un saw more than a ship. He saw an opportunity. A provocation. A reason to strike. The order was given. Fire. At precisely 11 a.m., 6 North Korean Hwasong-12, intermediate-range ballistic missiles, erupted from mobile launchers near Wonsan. Their target was not the American destroyer. It was Tokyo itself, the capital of Japan, home to 13 million people. The message was clear: punish Japan for hosting American forces. North Korea believed they had engineered the perfect surprise attack. 6 missiles launched simultaneously. Their arrival time just 7 minutes. No time to evacuate, no time to respond. It was a calculation designed for maximum terror. Strike Tokyo, and thousands of lives. Force Japan to the negotiating table. They gambled that America wouldn't risk nuclear war over a single attack. But North Korea had made 5 catastrophic mistakes. First, Arban's sophisticated missile defense system. It detected the launch in less than 4 seconds. Second, the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group. It was operating only 80 miles from the Japanese coast. Its 48 F-18 Super Hornets were armed and ready. Third, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. They had been preparing for this exact scenario for years. Authorization for an immediate counterstrike was already approved. Fourth, 12 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers had been secretly deployed to Guam 2 weeks earlier, armed with bunker-busting munitions. And fifth, the moment North Korea fired on Tokyo. They signed their own death warrant. What unfolded over the next 38 minutes became the most devastating military strike unleashed against North Korea since the end of the Korean War. It was the day Kim Jong-un learned a fatal lesson. You never attack Japan while America is watching. This is that story. Tokyo, 11 a.m. The Shinjuku and Shibuya districts. Life pulsing under the shadow of the Tokyo Tower. Millions of souls moving through an ordinary day. Office workers grabbing lunch. Students in class. Tourists capturing memories. The trains ran on time. It was a normal Thursday. Then suddenly, every air raid siren in Tokyo screamed to life at once. A piercing citywide wail. An emergency broadcast flashed on every screen. Ballistic missile alert. Seek immediate shelter. This was not a drill, and panic was a contagion. People ran, they screamed. They poured into the safety of subway stations, into metro tunnels, into the deep earth. Because 400 kilometers away, a nightmare had been unleashed. 6 North Korean missiles were clawing their way toward space, arcing toward Tokyo, impact, in 7 minutes. But this was the moment Japan had spent decades preparing for. This was their worst-case scenario. At 11 a.m. and 4 seconds, just after launch, Japan's early warning satellites detected the searing heat of the missile plumes. Infrared sensors triggered an instant alert. An automated message, cold and digital, was transmitted to the Japanese Self-Defense Force Command. Ballistic missile launch detected. Multiple contacts. Trajectory Tokyo. At 11 a.m., Prime Minister Takashi Nakamura was pulled from a state luncheon and rushed to the National Crisis Command Center. Prime Minister, North Korea has launched 6 ballistic missiles. They are targeting Tokyo, impact in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Our Aegis destroyers are engaging now. High above the planet, the first intercept happened. 120 kilometers above the Earth, an SM-3 Kinetic Kill Vehicle met its target. It did not explode, it simply collided. At a combined speed of 24,000 kilometers per hour. A volley of fire roaring into the sky. 16 SM-3 interceptors launched from the sea. A shield of steel and fire racing to meet the threat. Tracking 6 points of light destined for the city below. The battle for Tokyo had begun. 120 kilometers above the Earth, an SM-3 Kinetic Kill Vehicle closes in. Its target, a North Korean ballistic missile. They meet at a combined speed of 24,000 kilometers per hour. A silent, violent flash in the void. The first enemy warhead has gone destroyed in its midcourse phase. Seconds later, a second missile is vaporized. Then a third, but 3 warheads were still inbound, plummeting towards their target. They were entering the terminal phase. 30 seconds from impact over Tokyo. Japan's Patriot PAC-3 batteries roared to life. This is the last line of defense, a wall of shorter-range interceptors. Designed for low-altitude kills, 3 missiles streaked into the sky. It was 1,100 hours. The 4th enemy missile is obliterated by a Patriot. 20 kilometers above the city, the 5th is torn from the sky. 10 kilometers up, but the 6th missile broke through. It was on its terminal run, target the heart of Shibuya, screaming towards the ground at 30,800 kilometers per hour. 10 seconds to impact. Then suddenly, Japanese electronic warfare systems came online. A ghost in the machine, jamming the missile's guidance, spoofing its radar, forcing it blind. The warhead's trajectory became erratic. It veered violently off course, missing the city center. Instead, it slammed into Tokyo Bay, a massive explosion. A column of water erupted 200 meters into the air. The shock wave shattered windows along the waterfront. But there were no casualties. The missile had missed. At 11:04 a.m., just 4 minutes and 45 seconds after launch, all 6 North Korean missiles had been either destroyed or neutralized. Tokyo was saved. But this was not the end. While interceptors were still engaging, something else was happening. A flash alert hit U.S. Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii. The message: North Korea, ballistic missile attack on Tokyo. 6 missiles launched, Japan engaging. For Indo-PACOM Commander Admiral James Hewitt, this was the moment he had prepared for 3 years. His orders, a presidential directive, were crystal clear. If North Korea attacks Japan with ballistic missiles, respond with overwhelming force. The objective: eliminate North Korea's ability to ever launch again. At 11:49, Admiral Hewitt gave the order. Execute Operation Rising Sun. All forces weapons free. The objective: complete destruction of North Korea's ballistic missile infrastructure and military command. Authorization granted. The order was clear, and this threat now. At 11 a.m., while the last North Korean missiles were still burning in the sky, the American response began. The USS Ronald Reagan, 80 miles off the coast of Japan, on its decks 24 FA-18 Super Hornets launched into the sky. They were armed with AGM-158J ASSM cruise missiles, ranged 900 kilometers, a stealth weapon with surgical precision. Their target list was absolute: every North Korean missile launch site, every command bunker, every military facility that had played a part in the attack. At 11 a.m., 12 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers lifted off from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. Each one carried 16 GBU-57 massive ordnance, penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker busters, weapons designed for one purpose: to reach deep underground. Their targets: Kim Jong-un's command bunkers, the hidden facilities of the North Korean leadership, the deep earth complexes where the regime planned to hide. At 11 a.m., the exact moment Tokyo's final interceptor vaporized the last incoming missile, Japanese Prime Minister Nakamura received a call from the President of the United States. The message was direct. Prime Minister, your capital is safe. Your people are safe. Now we finish this. Japan's self-defense force, the President continued, is cleared to join the strike. Together we eliminate North Korea's missile threat. Today. Prime Minister Nakamura's response was swift. He agreed Japan would strike with its full force. He authorized immediate offensive operations. For the first time since the Second World War, Japan was going on the offensive. At 11 a.m., 16 Japanese F-35A stealth fighters scrambled from Misawa Air Base, armed to the teeth with precision-guided bombs and missiles. At 11 a.m., 4 Japanese Aegis destroyers turned toward the mainland and fired. 72 Tomahawk cruise missiles ripped through the air. Purchased from America just 2 years earlier, their moment had finally come. At 11 a.m., the Allied Armada was airborne and inbound, a combined American and Japanese force operating as one. The mission: to neutralize North Korea's ability to ever threaten Japan again. They had made a fatal mistake. At 1100 hours, North Korea launched 6 missiles at Tokyo. 7 minutes later, the response came. 128 American and Japanese assets were screaming towards North Korea. Kim Jong-un was about to learn a terrible lesson about what happens when you attack America's closest ally. 12:30 p.m., 16 minutes after the attack on Tokyo. 24 FA-18 Super Hornets from the USS Ronald Reagan tore across the border into hostile airspace. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't wait for clearance. They were simply there. Instantly, North Korean air defense radars flared to life, desperately trying to acquire a lock. But American IA-18A Growler electronic warfare aircraft were already painting their world with static. North Korean radar screens were a blizzard of white noise. Their SAM missile systems couldn't lock on. They were blind, and they were helpless. At 12:04 p.m., the Super Hornets unleashed hell. 48 AGM-158J ASSM cruise missiles. These are stealth weapons, flying low, hugging the terrain completely invisible. Their targets, the 6 mobile missile launchers that had fired on Tokyo. Allied intelligence had tracked their every move. At 12:07 p.m., their exact coordinates became their graveyards. 48 JSSMS struck home. Precision hits. 6 mobile launchers obliterated. Massive explosions. The crews killed instantly. The launch vehicles reduced to twisted steel. But that was just the opening salvo. At 12:09 p.m., the second wave arrived. 72 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from Japanese Aegis destroyers slammed into the North Korean coast. The targeting was systematic and brutal. 20 missiles struck Wonsan Air Base, the primary staging ground for North Korea's missile tests. Runways were cratered, hangars shredded. Fuel depots erupted in colossal fireballs. Another 16 missiles hit the Sohae satellite launching station. This was the heart of their space program. Launch towers used for ICBM tests collapsed. Assembly buildings were flattened. Control centers destroyed. 24 missiles slammed into Hwasong. It was another major missile production facility. Its assembly buildings obliterated. Its storage warehouses vaporized. By noon, the entire complex was a raging inferno. At 12 p.m., North Korea's visible missile infrastructure was burning, but the real devastation was yet to come. At 12:15 p.m., the second wave began. 12 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. They slipped undetected into North Korean airspace. Flying at 40,000 feet, they were ghosts to enemy radar. A fatal mistake. North Korea didn't even know they were there. Each B-2 carried 16 GBU-57 MOPS, 30,000 pounds of bunker-busting power. Each. The deepest penetrating bomb America has ever built. Designed for one purpose: to destroy fortified bunkers, buried 100 meters underground. The target's Kim Jong-un's primary command bunkers. North Korea had built hundreds of them. A maze of underground facilities. Most were decoys, but U.S. intelligence had found the real ones. 7 primary command bunkers. The locations where Kim Jong-un and his top generals actually commanded their forces. At 12:18 p.m., the first bomber was in position. It reached its target, a sprawling bunker complex, located deep beneath the earth near Pyongyang. Intelligence confirmed Kim Jong-un was there during the Tokyo strike. 16 GBU-57s were released, falling through the sky, GPS-guided, accurate to within 1 meter of their target. Impact, impact, impact. 16 sequential explosions, each bomb driving deeper than the last. They hammered through reinforced concrete. They pulverized solid rock. They reached the bunker complex 50 meters down. The final detonation tore a crater 30 meters deep in the surface. The bunker complex below was annihilated. Everyone inside was instantly gone, entombed beneath thousands of tons of rubble. Then at 12:21 p.m., the second B-2 struck another command bunker near Pyongyang, the nerve center of North Korea's military command, destroying 16 more command and control bunkers. At 12:24 p.m., a third B-2 hit a hardened underground facility near Hwasong. This was where North Korea built its mobile missile launchers. 16 bombs slammed into the target. The facility ceased to exist. One by one, the B-2s moved with chilling precision, systematically eliminating every major North Korean underground, command post, and weapons depot. By 12:28 p.m., a new player entered the fight. Japanese F-35s, 16 stealth fighters screaming towards their targets. North Korea's crumbling air defense systems, and its military headquarters on the surface. Japanese pilots, flying combat missions for the first time in 78 years. They performed flawlessly, delivering precision strikes. SAM sites vanished. Radar installations were obliterated. Military command buildings were leveled. At 12:32 p.m., 4 South Korean F-15K Strike Eagles, were authorized to join the mission. They struck the artillery positions dug into the DMZ, the very guns that had threatened Seoul for decades. 12 precision bombs hit home. The artillery was silenced, permanently. This wasn't just American retaliation. This was a unified Allied response. Japan, South Korea, and America, striking as one. At 12:35 p.m., the war moved beneath the waves. 6 American submarines lurking off the North Korean coast launched 48 Tomahawk cruise missiles from the depths. These missiles had a unique target list. They were aimed at North Korea's leadership facilities, not Kim Jong-un's primary bunkers. Those were already dust. But his personal residences, his vacation compounds, every place he could possibly run or hide. The presidential palace in Pyongyang. A Tomahawk struck. The building was destroyed. The Wonsan Beach Resort, Kim's private getaway. A Tomahawk struck. The resort was flattened. The Hwasong residence where Kim's family lived. A Tomahawk struck. The complex was annihilated. Then at 12:38 p.m., just 51 minutes after North Korea fired on Tokyo, the last Allied bomb found its mark. The final missile finds its mark. Operation Rising Sun was over. The final tally of ordnance delivered: 192 cruise missiles, 192 precision bombs, a total of 216,000 pounds of explosives. Every North Korean facility that aided the attack on Tokyo was destroyed. Every known command bunker shielding the regime's leadership collapsed. Every missile launcher that fired was obliterated. Every military command building was flattened. Every presidential residence and opulent compound demolished. In a single night, North Korea's ballistic missile infrastructure was functionally eliminated. And as for Kim Jong-un, intelligence placed him in the main Pyongyang command bunker at the exact moment the GBU-57 struck. His status unknown, possibly dead, buried deep beneath tons of rubble. The cost to American and Japanese forces, zero. Not a single aircraft was touched. Not one pilot was lost. For North Korea, the losses were catastrophic, an estimated 2,800 military personnel. 7 of their most important command bunkers, gone. 43 military facilities, wiped from the map. Their entire missile program was set back at least a decade, and the city of Tokyo was finally safe. Every incoming threat had been intercepted and neutralized within hours. In the aftermath, North Korean state media went completely dark. No announcements, no condemnations, no propaganda, because the regime had no way to explain what had just happened. They had fired 6 missiles at Tokyo. All 6 had been shot down. Then in response, their entire country was hammered by nearly 400 Allied munitions. When North Korean media finally broke its silence, 18 hours later, the story was pure fantasy. The heroic Korean People's Army, they claimed, had successfully tested a new missile system. They reported minor infrastructure damage from a cowardly American terrorist attack. The dear leader was safe. The revolution would continue. It was a complete and total denial of reality. But the eyes in the sky showed the devastating truth. The truth was 7 collapsed command bunkers. The truth was 43 destroyed facilities, including a major airbase. Craters scarred the landscape, and the presidential residences were nothing but smoking ruins. The Pentagon released the images. Not combat footage, just reconnaissance photos. A before and after message to Pyongyang. This is what's left of your missile program. The global reaction was seismic. North Korea's audacious attack on Tokyo had ended in a catastrophic defeat. The Allied response destroyed North Korea's entire missile infrastructure. In 38 minutes, Kim Jong-un's status unknown. As his command bunker smoldered, Japan celebrated in the streets. Their missile defense shield had worked perfectly. 6 missiles were launched. All 6 were neutralized. 0 casualties. Then Japan's self-defense force struck back. For the first time since 1945, Prime Minister Nakamura addressed the nation. Today, North Korea attacked our capital. Our defenses protected Tokyo. And alongside our American allies, we have ensured North Korea can never threaten us again. In Washington, the president's message was blunt. North Korea chose to attack. We chose to end their ability to ever attack again. This is what happens when you target America's allies. This is the price for firing on Tokyo. For decades, South Korea watched and waited, always worried about the artillery aimed at Seoul. Now they saw what American and Japanese forces could do. In just 38 minutes, China remained silent. No condemnation, no support. They just watched their buffer state get demolished. The strategic impact was total. North Korea's missile program was annihilated, set back a decade or more. Launch facilities, gone. Mobile launchers, eliminated. Command bunkers, collapsed. The leadership, presumed dead. If Kim Jong-un survived, he learned the hardest lesson of all. You can threaten America and Japan. You can test missiles. You can make speeches. But the moment you actually fire on Tokyo, your entire regime becomes the target. And the American response doesn't take hours. It takes 38 minutes. The time 11:47 a.m. North Korea makes a fatal mistake. 6 ballistic missiles scream towards Tokyo. The target, 13 million people. The goal, unimaginable chaos and death. But then, the clock strikes 12:25 p.m. A mere 38 minutes have passed. The verdict is in. All 6 hostile missiles neutralized. The counterstrike was swift and devastating. 7 North Korean command bunkers vaporized. 43 strategic facilities wiped from the map. 2,800 enemy casualties confirmed. The fate of their leader, Kim Jong-un, unknown. Tokyo remains untouched. Japan stands defended. North Korea's war machine, crippled. This is what happens. This is the price of attacking America's most vital ally in the region. This is the consequence of firing on a global metropolis. In broad daylight, under the watchful eyes of the U.S. 7th Fleet, they launched 6 missiles. Just 38 minutes later, their entire missile program lies in ruins. Their leadership bunkers are now smoldering craters. Their regime has been shattered. Never attack Tokyo. Never threaten Japan. Never test the resolve of America's allies. Because the response doesn't take days. It doesn't take hours. It takes exactly 38 minutes. And when it's over, your command centers are nothing but dust. Your military installations are reduced to rubble. Your entire regime is buried. This was Operation Rising Sun. This is how the alliance responds to unprovoked aggression. This is how fast your world ends when you dare to strike Tokyo. 38 minutes. Complete and utter devastation. Total victory. A lesson written in fire. Never attack Japan.